Frankie Russo show straight out of Brooklyn. How you all doing? This is the Frankie Russo show. This is like my pre-show to the live show I do on Scope, like I used to do with ABC. So this is like my pre-show. We don't go crazy. You know, I just go through some of the data we accumulated for today. Crazy day. I just want to say, you know, so I don't know how much longer we're going to do on YouTube Live because I'm looking at a podcast. Now, if I can podcast my YouTube Live, I'll just continue to do this, take the show, and I have to see what I'm going to do yet. I haven't decided. So we're going to continue to do YouTube Live until I decide to do where I'm going to podcast. Because this is like my pre-show before the live show, which is, you know, it's like no hold bars type of show, and you know, it's just crazy. Scope, we did the same thing at 77 WABC for almost 243 shows. So that's where we're rolling. I'm all excited. We're a silver VIP broadcaster on Scope. We did 143's weekend broadcaster at 77 WABC. I'm all excited. We want to get to the gold, right? So now tonight, I just tied in. We got Skype going on tonight. For the first time on my Scope Live, I'm going to be taking live calls plus chatting live. And then I'm going to be looking to upgrade the broadcast on Scope. I got a few options I found. And we're going to take it from there. We're going to grow this show. We're going to get to the gold level. And we're going to be working with somebody, Scope TV, somebody, Scope. Maybe with the grace of God, I'd love to get back on radio broadcast, maybe ABC, who knows? Okay, so that's where we are. So let's get into the data. So we start with our disclaimer, Russo disclaimer, outside looking in. Congressional Oversight, no Congressional Oversight Committee, no International Atomic Energy Agency, no Joint Chiefs of Staff, no National Security Council. We don't have access, in other words, we don't have access to classified documents. Court papers, judges' decisions, peer-reviewed journal articles, and well-researched, well-sourced open source articles. We're in search of statistical, a quasi-subjectivity, and I'm not going to lie. We look for, in all likelihood, in all probability, what is going on over here. That's basically it. Quote unquote statistical significance. It's a quasi model. There is subjectivity in this model. I'm not going to lie. Look above me. There's a Trump sign. Okay. So here it is. The Russo disclaimer. We're keeping it straight. We keep it real. Okay. So I got the Russo logo for the Frankie Russo show. The logo. That's the Russo logo. So we're going to start. So now we're gonna do, we got some sidebars, some of the things that happened today. You know, some crazy things happened today. Unfortunately, we got a sick and depraved London terror attack. Victim named as Westminster officer, and Prime Minister May condemns attack on Parliament that killed 5. I'm sick and tired of these lefties like May and all these other lefty politicians, both home and abroad. Let them in! Let them in! And they attack, kill, and maim our people. And then we got to say, we're sorry it happened, and we're doing the best that we can, and we want to keep our values. Meanwhile, people are getting killed. Are you kidding me? So this is the stuff that drives me crazy. Innocent people getting killed. According to now here it is now. ISIS supporters cheer. Now I wonder where the cheer was. Where were they cheering? They won't say. This is Telegraph reporters. ISIS supporters cheer Westminster attack as revenge for British airstrikes on Syria. Now, here's the article. Telegraph reporters. So what I'm looking at over here is, where were the cheers? ISIS supporters have cheered the attack. Where? Where? One ISIS channel called it blessed. One ISIS channel called this attack on Westminster, UK as blood for blood. But I'm curious. Where are the ISIS supporter cheers coming from? Are they in Westminster? They're not telling you. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be interesting? Well, not very good, quite frankly, obviously. But wouldn't it be crazy if it came out that the cheers were in England? Oh, here's a beaut. Podesta was, to me, this is, this to me is the biggest Fugazi fake news story with all the stuff that we've been doing up here since 77 WABC till we're coming out of Brooklyn. Podesta was a board member of firms linked to Russian investors. I mean, why am I not shocked? This is like the tip of the iceberg to me. When you got $33.6 billion going to Iran, 8% of the GDP of Iran. You got General Soleimani, the #1 operative of the Iranian Quds Force, Special Forces of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, going to Russia, tying in the Russian-Iranian alliance to prop up Syria. I mean, are you kidding me over here? Who's the Russian agents? Who are the Russian agents? And conceivably, quite frankly, Syria, who they crossed the line, Obama did nothing. The Obama-Clinton crime family did nothing. Is Syria an Iranian colony? Is Iraq an Iranian colony? Maybe. And I got Lebanon too. We're gonna talk about a little bit. So Rep. Louis Gohmert, an outspoken House rep from Texas, is calling for a congressional investigation into Podesta's role with Rosnano, a state-run company founded by Putin. I mean, this is tit for tat. Chairman of executive board of Rosnano Corp. And Russian journalists attend a session of the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum in St. Petersburg, Russia, June 16, 2016, 3 months. I don't know. I mean, is this significant? And further, he failed to disclose. It was disclosed, and WikiLeaks disclosed the stock. So I mean, I'm obviously there's a tie there, and they're hiding something, right? Try to pin it on DT. Meanwhile, they're doing it. That's usually the case with these lefties. These lefties, they are terrible. So we'll see. Here's another one. DT's got to drain this swamp. DT's got to drain the swamp of the rats. Drain the swamp of the rats. Drain that swamp. Politico. Nunes claims some Trump transition messages were intercepted. According to Politico, Austin Wright. I'm reading excerpts from the article. House Intelligence Chairman Nunes declared Wednesday that members of Donald Trump's transition team, possibly including Donald Trump himself, were under inadvertent surveillance following November's presidential election. Nunes set off the firestorm with a news conference earlier in which he described the surveillance of Trump aides through what's called incidental collection, something he noted was routine and legal. Such collection can occur when a person inside the United States communicates with a foreign target of U.S. surveillance. In such cases, the identities of U.S. citizens are supposed to be shielded, but can be unmasked by intelligence officials under certain circumstances. Nunes himself, a Trump transition member, said a source had shown him evidence that the members of the Trump transition team had been unmasked, that their identities had been revealed in U.S. intelligence reports. Nunes had previously raised questions about the unmasking of foreign National Security Advisor Flynn, whose communication with Russia's ambassador were intercepted by U.S. government, whose identity was leaked to news media. Nunes suggested this unmasking might have been done for political reasons, saying that the evidence he has seen had been widely disseminated across the intelligence community and had little or no apparent intelligence value. He added that he was trying to get more information by Friday from the FBI, CIA, and NASA. DT has to drain the swamp of the freaking rats. That's what he's got to do. And then we got this other thing, and I'm going to get to this last one. Focus on border wall as visa overstays create illegal immigrant crisis. This is Judicial Watch. This is real deal Holyfield documentation. They got the study, and I'm going to talk about it tomorrow. So they got the study. So what they have is, while the Trump administration focuses on securing the southern border, most illegal immigrants enter the United States legally and stay after their visa expires, a new study reveals. I'll have that study tomorrow. We'll get the numbers. That's because, incredibly, the U.S. doesn't have an adequate system to assure the foreigners leave when they're supposed to. This has been a serious problem for years, and in fact, some of the 9/11 hijackers overstayed their visa to plan the worst terrorist attack on U.S. soil. More than a decade and a half later, little has changed. Securing the famously porous southern border is essential to national security, but so is a reliable system that cracks down on visa overstays. How bad is the problem? I'm going to read this last paragraph. More than half of the undocumented people living in the U.S. entered the country with visas that expired, according to a report issued this month by a New York-based think tank dedicated to studying international migration. The study analyzes DHS, Department of Homeland Security statistics from 2014, and finds that 2/3 of the foreigners who arrived did not cross the border. Finds that 2/3 of the foreigners who arrived did not cross the border illegally, but rather were admitted on non-immigrant temporary visas, period of admission, or otherwise violated the terms of their visas. Overstays accounted for about 2/3, 66% of those who arrived joined the undocumented population in 2014. Crazy stuff. So I'm going to get to some of the stuff. We're going to get more on data on this. Okay. Now I'm going to segue into a few articles. I want to get to the, you know, we talk about this. U.S. Treasury targets Al Qaeda operatives in Iran. We got these other headlines. Ties between Russia and the Taliban. Libya, Russia's new frontier. How General Soleimani plotted Syrian assault in Moscow. And we got Soleimani, Iran's architect operations. These are the headlines. This is why Russo is so adamant. I mean, I'm not saying this is unequivocally true, but we are close with this data. We are close with this data. We are very close. Now, and then we got Obama's Cash for Jihad program, that with Blind Sheep's prosecutor Andrew McCarthy, claiming that the least Iran got back from the United States was $33.6 billion, which makes up an estimate 8% of Iran's GDP. And in the article, I'll read it again. I don't have it here. It's in there. Talked about from the Defense of Democracy Foundation that the language Iran it's very clear in the way they dispose of the money that it went to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, and I'm going to be focusing on that more and more as I move this thing forward. So we have that, and we have Iran-ISIS connection, right? So this is absolutely incredible, right? When you look at all this data, I go through the material support data all the time. The Obama-Clinton administration is a criminal enterprise in a courtroom of American public opinion. That's the premise, and if that's the case, then the Obama-Clinton crime family is materially supporting radical Islamists. And I think we're close. You know, we have indications here that Iraq might be a colony based on the It was mentioned in the Shadow Commander article, the New Yorker Magazine article. But in addition, and it talks about the Iraqi banks, it breezes over it, but Kenneth Tillerman with Frank Gaffney in the Center for Security Policy in an interview talks about General Soleimani, the Quds Force in Iraq, floating currency in Iraqi banks and garnering billions of dollars. And that's what they talk about. Maliki's helping them do that. And Maliki also buys the oil. And if I'm not mistaken, it's in the millions. And sends the money to General Soleimani of the Quds Force. So with that, all that going on, and the way the breakdown's going down, conceivably, like the attacks and the scuttlebutts, the fights, they're not scuttlebutts, you know, the war, the battles, the Mosul battle, for example, better term, the Mosul battle, the way that's breaking down, Iran is doing what they got to do, money and firepower. Iran's providing money and firepower in Syria, and now we're looking at. So I think right now we're getting close to be able to say that Syria is a colony of Iran, that Iraq is a colony of Iran, and now Lebanon. I want to get into this now because this is Al Ariba. They have, I think they own. Al Ariba owns a news channel. Al Ariba owns a news channel in, I think, in Britain. Maybe. I got to find out. But they claim that this Abdul Rahman al-Rashid, he's the author of this article, when Lebanon becomes an Iranian colony. So we got Iraq conceivably with the data we're putting together. Now look, remember this now. Remember he says Saudi Arabia has allocated $3 billion to the Lebanese army and $1 billion to the Lebanese security forces to develop their capacities and train them. It didn't set conditions for Lebanon to get involved in foreign wars or join regional alliances. This Abdul Rahman goes on to say that the aim was to strengthen the central authority in the country by supporting state institutions against militias, intimidating acts, and helping them fight extremist organizations. The whole idea was to fill the vacuum left by the withdrawal of Syrian troops following a decision taken by the UN Security Council after the Assad regime was found involved in. Wow! So the Assad regime was found involved in the assassination of former Prime Minister Harini. Remember we talked about in the Shadow Commander, the Hezbollah assassins. So Assad was they're claiming, according to this article, they're claiming that he was involved, the Assad regime. So this is interesting. So as Saudi Arabia extended its hand, Saudi represents the Sunni side to this sectarian war between the Sunni and Shia. As Saudi Arabia extended its hand of strength to the Lebanese state, Hezbollah intensified its efforts to take over authority as it didn't settle with the large sum it already has. It employed Lebanese military institutions to serve its purposes in the war in Syria and exploited these institutions inside Lebanon. It also worked on using Lebanese foreign ministry to support Iranian stances in international gatherings and did exploit Lebanon's banking system, which was well known as the best in the region for illegal trading activities. Now, so the last two consecutive governments, so wow. What's more dangerous, the army itself failed to disassociate its forces and it became exploited by Hezbollah to employ it in the Iranian war in Syria. Hezbollah dragged the army to have it deploy its forces in areas like Arsul, and then it used these forces to pursue whom it described as terrorists from among the Syrian opposition. So we're going to look further into this because Hezbollah turns to Lebanon into, Hezbollah wants to turn, listen to this, right? According to this is according to Abdul Rahman al-Rashid. Hezbollah wants to turn Lebanon into an Iranian colony. It practices all complement. It practices all complement the Faqui's project to dominate Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon. Wow. Under these circumstances, the policy of strengthening, training, and arming the Lebanese army and security forces is no longer logical. Even though Saudi Arabia has halted its support, Saudi Arabia will remain the hope of moderate parties in the battle against the militias of Iran and their allies to the country is now, so the country is now up for grabs in this raging regional war, the sectarian war. So basically, Hezbollah's got their foot in the door over here in Lebanon. So we got Lebanon. I'm okay. This is what I'm going to do. We're going live scope after the show. After this is a like, quote unquote podcast. I'm working on getting a podcast going, whether it be YouTube Live and I podcast it or something like that. I got Skype going tonight. I'm going to be taking live calls on my Scope live show. We are a silver VIP broadcaster on Scope. We did 143 shows at 77 WABC. Our goal is to become a gold broadcaster on Scope, and then we work with the Twitter team. We've garnered since the beginning of March. We've garnered between 800 to 900 million impressions, but now Twitter's has account issues. And so they've really been messing with our account with the algorithms. So they've slowed us down a little bit. So our numbers are, but I have the numbers. We were up to projected. We were up to direct impressions of over 800 million. That's how. We're moving on a. So we're gonna to the campaign. So right now, tonight I'm going Scope Live on my Scope. I'm going Skype. We're gonna be taking live calls with the Scope at Frankie Russo 1. You can find me on my Twitter account, Frankie Russo 1. Just click on the Scope link and you go right into my show. We got that going on. So now I just wanna, what time is it? Because I wanted to get into Sudan more, but maybe I should just leave it off like this, because we're looking at Lebanon. Yeah, because I want to get a world map and show you, because we're going to start to look at the macro view of this whole thing. Because right now I see Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, and maybe Yemen right now. I'm going to look for the rest of, because I know based on the Washington Post, the Sunni outnumber the Shia like 9-1 in the North African Middle Eastern region. But there are some Shia-dominated countries like Iran, like Syria, conceivably like Iraq, conceivably like Lebanon, and we'll see what's going on with Yemen, and we're going to look at some other countries within that area, the North African Middle Eastern region, where the Shia dominates over the Sunni in numbers. Like Iran, because Iran is the #1 Shia country in that region, right? So that's what we're looking at over there. And I really want to get into this Sudan, get further into this with Sudan and Omar al-Bashir. And I've read like 7 or 8 pages on this show, on this YouTube live show. I want to get more into it. Because we're going to get into the financial support and all that. So maybe we'll put this off till tomorrow, and we'll see what's going on tomorrow, and then we'll tie everything in. So that's the game plan. Because basically, what we're showing here is, and I'll show it to you again. We have General Soleimani, and we read the excerpt from this New Yorker magazine article, the Iran's #1 operative reshaping the Middle East and directing Assad's war in Syria. So this is basically Dexter Filkins in New Yorker magazines, because they hate Trump, so this is not fake news, okay? So we got Soleimani, Iran's architect of Russian operations in Syria. Right? This is one headline. So we're looking to explain this. How Iran's General Soleimani plotted Syrian assault in Moscow. I'm going to put all these articles together tomorrow. So I'm going to do that. Right? Tomorrow I'm going to put these articles together. We got the Andrew McCarthy article, Cash for Jihad. Then I'm going to bring in the ties between Russia and the Taliban worry Afghanistan. This is all part of the stuff that we talk about Iran. So the argument that we're laying out here, conceivably, in all likelihood, in all probability, this may be true. I mean, what's going on here, right? $33.6 billion, Blind Cheek's prosecutor, Andrew McCarthy, claiming went to Iran from the Obama-Clinton crime family. That's 8% of the GDP. And according to the article, I don't have it here right in front of me. I only got the cover of it. It's in the last page. The money, a lot of that money went to the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. This is nuts. And we're showing the tie with Iran to Russia, an oil deal, $1 billion oil deal in 2015 between Putin and Iran. That's been documented by both governments. I had that on the show. And now we got the architect, the Iranian general, going to Russia, looking to get Russia to help them with Syria because there was concerns of the collapse of the Assad regime. So I don't understand. Who's the Russian agent here? DT's in there 52 days, 53 days. They're in there 8 years. Who's the Russian agent? The Obama-Clinton crime family. It's the Frankie Russo show, okay? I'm going to my scope now. I'll see you tomorrow. Everything's unfolding. I'm going to be scoping live at Frankie Russo 1 on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter. I'll follow you back. And then I'm going to Skype tonight. I'm taking live calls for the first time. So I'm a silver VIP broadcaster on Scope. We're trying to get to gold, which is big league. We'll be working with Twitter producers. From there, we did 143 shows, live shows, weekend shows at 77 WABC. Highly rated show. Now we're out of Brooklyn. Frankie Russo. See you tomorrow night around 7:30, 8 o'clock. See you in the future.